What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about some of those potential leaks for Chloe, Deck9, Square Enix. I want to read them all aloud, want to give you guys my opinion on them, and we'll go from there, okay? I want to say a few things, though, up front. Number one, please, for the love of God, do not harass, do not attack, do not threaten, and really anybody, actually, right? Look, I am actually very, very much on the side of criticism, that you can criticize. I think that's where I actually probably separate myself from a lot of other YouTubers. If you have a problem, you can voice it. Make your tweets, make your videos. I'm all for it, and I do it myself. But then there's the point of stepping over that line of going after people, going after Deck9 employees, or, you know, the actresses or actors themselves that do these roles, like a Hannah Tell, like, you know, they don't need that. We don't need to do that, right? I think we can honestly put together some really good thoughts and be very passionate without stepping over that line. So I just want to throw that out there just in case anybody cares, but it's also let you know my opinion on it, right? That I think you are more than in your right to talk about these things and be mad about them. But, you know, there's a spot where you can go too far. So, all right, let's go over this. So you may or may not have seen this. I'm going to take this all from Nicefield over on Twitter, a great individual, a person that obviously is pretty entangled in all of this stuff, but we follow each other, and they do a lot of great content. So, okay. Lady Dev Hart, and this is going to pop back up because they do a second post somewhere else as well. Ex-Deck9er here. A bunch of us pushed back on this constantly. There were 3 obstacles. The narrative team repeatedly said that they actively disliked Chloe as a character. They also had very little faith in the project, with the former lead writer saying, "I effing hate this game," more than once in public meetings. They also almost never played the build while writing the game, leading to very detached decision-making. To their credit, the narrative team was mostly women, and Deck9 is, well, Deck9. So I'm not sure how much space they had for anything but survival and support of each other. The directors had no idea what they wanted the story to be. One openly asked in an all-hands-on meeting for ideas on how to end the story because it was written into a corner. They was shot down every suggestion. The other director repeatedly threatened to, let's say, unalive themselves when people brought complaints to him, said things like, "If I hear about this again, I will leap from this window and you'll be scraping blank, 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 blank." The publisher, Square Enix London, operates in a nesting doll of middle management, so no one actually wants to make a decision without a fall guy. In the case of Chloe, Ashley Birch was not brought back to voice before the storm because the strike was going on. We know that. D9 and Square agreed to bring in scabs. Rihanna did a really commendable job, even though the situation was blanked. And Ashley was instead brought in as a story consultant. There was a stipulation that she not talk blank about the game, which Square is of the opinion that she did. So because of some angry email from some executive producer 5+ years ago, Square will not be bringing back Ashley to voice Chloe. But because of another angry email about how Rihanna was poorly received, I think she did great, they will not be outright recasting Chloe as a major character. So the systems of capitalism and corporate structure have created a space where Chloe has to be gone for good. Sorry, gang. Finally, yes, of effing course, the 2 timeline was pitched initially as a way to have both Bay and Bay exist simultaneously. I was in the all-hands-on meeting where it was pitched. Zach Garris did not understand what was being pitched, started the wheels for this monstrosity, and no one with the talent and willingness to get us off the tracks was in a position to do so. That said, Amanda is rad. Moses and Safi has some great moments. Hannah Tell and Brian Landis Fulkins give some great line reads as Max and Alderman, and Lucas is the most punchable face in video games. A lot of the devs worked really hard and weathered 3 rounds of layoffs in order to bring you this. The cinematics team specifically has a special place in my heart. You all worked so hard, and I'm so sorry so few of you got to the finish line. If you are interested and can forgive us axing Chloe, please give it a shot. If it's not for you, please quell the rage and know that we tried. We tried. And then we have part 2. Vin as a romance was added mid-production as a publisher decision. D9 Narrative was against it but had to comply. Max was the protagonist from very early on. I know a good number of us wanted Alex again, but I wasn't in the room for those talks, so I'm not sure how seriously that was being floated. Square is very interested in moving past Chloe Price. I can't comment on future plans plans on the studio, only what I've already said, which has already been revealed publicly in different places if you know where to look. But I will say, I do not believe there is anyone left at D9 in a position of power who actually cares about this franchise. We didn't all hate her, but the game dev is not a democracy. The only theory I've heard from a D9er is that in the original, Max is basically written as a man, and that Chloe is the blue-haired maniac pixie dream girl from an early 2000s indie movie. I disagree. It was more D9 management is always terrified of losing the Life is Strange contract and getting on Square's bad side, and Square doesn't like her. And a lot of people were looking for excuses to get rid of Chloe, and that fostered an attitude where criticism of her was received more easily than praise. On Square's side, it's their own Square drama with Ashley, but they have drama with everybody. And there you go. Super, super long. And honestly, there is a lot to talk about because, I mean, look, number one, there's if we believe it or not. And I mean, so much of what I'm about to say really stems from, is this thing real or not? I think there absolutely could be a lot of truth to it, right? Like, we know Square holds grudges. We know kind of how Square Enix operates. And so, some of that sounds, potentially accurate, but other parts to it, like, and I tweeted this myself, or I think I said it to somebody at least. The beginning of that first thing we read, it just immediately comes kind of off to me, right? Where it's like, well, you can't praise the narrative team, and they say it's an all-women team or mostly all women. And I don't care. I don't care who's writing this thing. I want a well-written story. So if it's all women, that's phenomenal. If it's good, I mean, I don't care otherwise, right? But you're praising it and all this stuff. But then you say like, well, nobody that's writing it cares. They all hate it. They all hate the game. They hate the franchise. They hate Chloe. All this different kind of stuff. And it's like, okay, well, I don't know. It doesn't seem like it's like a succinct kind of thought. Now, that doesn't have to mean that it's wrong, right? That's just something I kind of noticed. It's very possible that that's true. I guess here's what I want to say, right? Or what I'm trying to like feel on the inside. It hurts so much to even semi-believe that, like, this is the state internally. Does that make sense? Like, this is Life is Strange 1. I've talked about how much of, like, an important game that is in my life. I freaking love it. It's one of my all-time favorite games. Now, here's the thing. It will always be. It will always be special. It will always be one of my favorite games. What has happened since and where the franchise is going, it's hard to ignore, especially like content creation-wise, but like I'll always have the first. And I would say that as just not advice, but just something to remember. I don't try to give advice because you guys can make your own decisions. You don't need me. But, for those that are upset and stuff, I get it. Like, you don't want to see a franchise run into the ground. Totally understand, right? I absolutely understand that. But they can never take away what they already gave, right? Like, they gave, not them, but Don't Nod, gave Life is Strange 1. You'll always have that relationship. And where Max and Chloe go from Life is Strange 1 is kind of up to you. Like, you don't have to play. Now, I guess it's not like an authority, right? But in your own heart, in your own mind, they can do whatever. You can do whatever you want, right? With the story, you could just ignore like what's coming out now. I get ignoring it's difficult again, but that's just something I kind of wanted to say out there because I think that's important. I really do, especially if this is true, because this brings up so many like scary thoughts to me where, if there's really nobody at Deck 9 that cares, then it's like, okay, what about the talk that like this could wrap up or this will wrap up in a way Max's story? Like, I swear to God, if you kill her. Also, I swear to God, I don't know, like, why would you bring it back to tell one quick story with Max, erase so much of what made Life is Strange 1 special, and then call it quits and say we're good, right? But it's so much of it's ambiguous. Like, you don't know, like, did Square Enix want to do Max or did Deck 9? Like, this makes it sound like it was more Square Enix's decision, but you don't know that. And the Vin thing, right? Like, I will say from Vin's a little slimy. Now, I actually think he's like, I don't want to say like cool character. Like, he comes across as like a cool kid, right? He's an adult, but he comes across as like a cool adult, right? But he also has some like questionable things that he does. I guess for me, it's like, well, I don't take too much offense to that part of it. Not necessarily like romancing him. Like, you can have whatever opinion. Like, if you don't like him or you don't think Max would go for that, that's totally cool. I could actually understand that. I guess what I'm getting for, or going for, is like, well, if Deck 9 wanted to make her solely like just lesbian, right? Well, it's like she was attracted to guys in the first game. Now, not her and Warren, but she did like guys. So she's bi. I mean, that's just what she is. I don't care. Like, that's great. So if they were trying to change that and Square Enix stepped in, I actually would take Square Enix's side on that one, because it's like, well, don't change the character. Like, keep the character as it was. But again, so much of this stuff is messy. And honestly, all of the stuff I've said has really been ignoring the biggest freaking thing, and it's Chloe, right? Again, if that's true, that is heartbreaking. It really is. Like, and it sounds like it's from multiple fronts, right? Like, they could have people there that just don't like Chloe as a character. They could have people there that just don't like Life is Strange in general, or what Life is Strange 1 was, right? Square Enix kind of wants to move on from her. Could I see that? Well, okay, it's one thing to hear it or read it, right, in these leaks, quote unquote. And by the way, this person, the evidence they used to show that they're a Deck 9 employee was showing like a sweater or like a shirt that they gave Deck 9 employees. But the thing is, I think there was people kind of doing like deep dives into it, and I think that picture already existed. So it's very possible this person is just stealing it and coming off like, oh, hey, I'm a former Deck 9 employee. Hey, look, here's my shirt that I got from working in the company. If that shirt was ever online, then anybody could take, I could find the picture right now and say I was a Deck 9 employee because I have the picture of the shirt. You know what I mean? So it's just something you got to keep it in mind. It's why none of this stuff is definitive. I'm giving you guys my thoughts, but we don't really know. And it's another reason why it's kind of important for me to see what episodes or chapters 3 through 5 of Double Exposure, what do they do? Because if they keep going down the path they are right now with like the Chloe thing, then honestly I am inclined to believe it, because that's kind of my next point, right? It's one thing to read all this stuff, it's another thing to see it play out. And although, like, there's kind of two sides to it, because Chloe, like the re-recorded lines, which is odd, and that does actually give credibility to the Ashley Birch thing, right? The fact that those lines are re-recorded either means one of two things. One, there's going to be new lines, and or Chloe appears in the game, and that's why they swapped out Ashley for Rihanna. Or number two, everybody is incredibly petty, and they hate Ashley Birch so much that they wanted to use the special lines from Life is Strange 1, but they re-recorded them using their preferred actress for Chloe. Now, I agree. I like Rihanna. I think she did a great job. Got nothing against her. I think she's a good Chloe. I think she's a great young Chloe. It makes no sense to me that Max, when hearing back these voices in her head, is imagining a different voice. So that, like, in terms of like lore, that doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. But that is something I guess I want to say, right? Where I do like her and I have no problems with her, but already you're seeing, but it's also double-sided, because it's like, okay, if they hate Chloe so much, why not just really, really step in the line of fire and say, we're done. We're not having these freaking, like, when Max passes out in the beginning, or maybe middle of episode 1, what does she hear? She hears the Chloe thing. She hears multiple lines, the partners in crime, partners in time. She hears multiple key iconic lines from Chloe in the first game, no matter which ending you chose. It doesn't matter which one you chose. You still hear that no matter what, because it still resonates with Max. So, okay, on that side of things, Chloe is still important to Max, and Chloe is still maybe not like the most integral, but Chloe is still a part of this game. Like, she just is so far, and she might be even more going forward. So, okay, that actually kind of disproves what we just read, because it's like, all right, if you hate her so much and you want to move on for her, now it can still happen, because it can be kind of an angle from she's trying to wrap up how she feels about Chloe and move on in episode 5, and you can go down that path. But again, like, that's why it's tough right now. Where do you want to put your mindset, right? Were the lines re-recorded because they actually are going to mean something? And if they're re-recorded and they're in the game at all, okay, well, then do they really hate Chloe? But on the other side of things, they literally they want to erase Ashley Birch being Chloe. That I do think is true no matter what. No matter if Chloe is important to episodes 3 through 5, no matter if Chloe shows up, no matter if we get new lines from Chloe, no matter anything that happens, I think it is clear that they do not want, and when I say they, I don't really know who I'm talking about. Probably Square Enix, but also like Deck 9 worked with Rihanna. Did they think like, hey, well, let's just keep the consistency. Like, we have a good relationship with her. Ashley was a story consultant, but we worked with Rihanna, so we want to do it again. Who do you want to blame? And again, that's like the dangerous thing. You can criticize and you can blame or whatever, but stepping over that line again, I would not advise doing something like that. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. Like, I am willing to believe this eventually, and I think there's probably shreds of truth in here. But like, I don't know if they're a real Deck 9 former employee, right? And also the way they say like nobody cares, right? Like they kind of have a couple key points where it's like people of power do not care about Life is Strange. That is, to end this video, the one thing I think I can really kind of target as like, well, this is a little weird reading, is that. Because, okay, what we know of Deck 9 from like IGN reporting, right? So Deck 9's in a really bad spot right now, right? They worked on The Expanse. The Expanse really didn't do well. They're struggling to find contracts, right? They've had multiple waves of layoffs. Now, that is true. But again, like, you don't need to be a former employee. You could fake it. You could fake being an insider and just know what's going on in the gaming industry, and you could come up with a couple of the things that this person said. But going back to the point, right? They're struggling with contracts. They can't get games. Nobody's coming to them to offer them games. They're going out to people. They're trying to get projects so they can keep people employed. They went through waves of layoffs, right? Life is Strange is like the biggest thing, and probably will forever be the biggest thing that they're given from Square Enix. So that part of like Deck 9 is afraid to lose Life is Strange. I believe that simply because of that reporting. Because yeah, if Square Enix takes Life is Strange away from Deck 9, I'm not saying this is the right move. I'm saying this is what I think is going to happen. They will shut down. I truly believe without the Life is Strange, license, they will shut down because they just won't have work and they won't be able to afford it. Okay, but with that being said, like using my own logic, well, wouldn't they then, I guess it's like, okay, well, do they have to force themselves to care about Life is Strange? Like, maybe they don't. Maybe they do not like Life is Strange, and maybe they wanted to make an Alex game. Maybe they wanted to make a brand new Life is Strange. Maybe they don't want to make Life is Strange games anymore at all. Some just basic employees. But the management is like, well, and this is actually where I can kind of understand everybody. I can understand an employee not wanting that, right? You work at a studio in an entry position. You're doing the work that's given to you. You don't get choices. You don't get to fight. You're just there. You're working your job. You do a good job, and that's it, right? That's what you're there for. Okay, so I can understand them being hesitant where it's like, hey, we didn't really want to do this. We didn't want to make these Chloe choices. Okay, well, I would understand actually the management side, though, too, because it's like, okay, if we can't get other games, it's either we make a game that maybe we're like 50-50. Maybe we don't really feel like it today, right? Like SpongeBob not really feeling like making the Krabby Patty. Maybe they don't feel like making Life is Strange. But if they don't make Life is Strange, or if they really piss off Square Enix, they're done. Because if Life is Strange is not Deck 9's, it's Square Enix's. It wasn't Dontnod's, it's Square Enix's. Square Enix can decide at any point that we're not feeling it. Could be for sales success, critical reception, they just get mad at the management, could be anything, they pull it. And so, yeah, Deck 9 might be afraid to lose that and is willing to make some compromises to be able to keep the Life is Strange thing. So, again, thinking about it from that way, part of that is what they said in this little breakdown, right? So, like, I understand that part, and I think, I could have come up with that because, like, I have come up with that in the past, but also you could say it as, like, a leaker, right? But then the part of, like, well, nobody cares about the franchise, they've said they want to make more Life is Strange games. Look, you can lie about that. That's a thing that can happen, but why would you even say it, right? It was at PAX. It was at PAX when they gave non-answers to the Chloe stuff. They said not only with, like, Max's story, but they want to keep making Life is Strange games. So, okay, if you want to make Life is Strange games, then you care about the franchise. Now, maybe this person's talking about, like, Max's franchise, right? Like Life is Strange 1 and Double Exposure, the arc of Max Caulfield. Maybe they don't care about her. Maybe they don't care about that. okay, but that's not what they said. They said they don't care about the franchise, and yet they do want to make more Life is Strange games. Another way of looking at that is that they're pleading, right? They're saying, hey, Square, we're more than willing. Keep allowing us to make Life is Strange, and we will make Life is Strange games. We'll keep doing it, right? That could be for that reason as well. I think that, again, there's some like universal truths no matter what, and that's one of them. They will make Life is Strange games as long as Square Enix lets them, because that's just the situation. Unless they get lucky with something else, right? Like, they might be really wanting a breakthrough moment somewhere else, because if they don't get that, they'll be stuck with Life is Strange or they'll be stuck for Life is Strange forever until it's taken from them, and then they're screwed. So I imagine they probably want to get away from it as well, in that sense, where it's like, okay, let's not rely on one thing. Let's be able to make our own, because they're still playing around in a franchise that they didn't start. I'm sure as creatives, they'd want to be able to create their own franchise and go forward. And honestly, that kind of almost, I'm not saying, well, jealousy, I guess, the kind of mindset of like, these aren't yours, might actually start to invade their thoughts when they think about Chloe. I've thought about that in the past too, not just with Chloe, with anything. If you inherit a franchise, if you inherit Chloe and you say, I'm just not a big fan, I would have liked to make my own character. We want to make Amanda. We want to make Safi. We don't need these, you know what I mean? We don't need Chloe. She's not ours, and we just feel kind of disconnected with it. In some ways I get it, some ways I don't get it, but yeah, I feel like I've gone on long enough, so you guys let me know what you think in the comments. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on. I hope to see you all on the next one.